Good morning and welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. My name's Diane Alcorn and I am the Membership and Engagement Coordinator here. If this is your first time visiting with us, welcome. We're glad you took the time to join us here. If you'd like more information about our church and our worship community, please feel free and send me an email. In the meantime, again, welcome. We're so glad you took the time to join us.
Welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, a spiritual community whose hope is audacious and whose vision is for a more equitable and just world for all. My name is Reverend Anthony McCarr, Senior Minister of this wonderful community, and joining me this morning are Dave Blazer, Music Director, Megan Ross, Director of Religious Education and Engagement, Brian Lutz, Youth Ministry Coordinator, Melinda McGuckin, Worship Associate. Our youth who are graduating from high school, whom we are honoring with a special bridging ceremony this morning, and Larry Wise, Michael Hockman, and Danny Danchak, who are our tech folks making this live stream possible. We are pleased to welcome you to this space, a space which is connecting people in Cleveland and all over to our welcoming community. A very special welcome to members of the Amarillo Unitarian Universalist Fellowship all the way from Texas who are worshiping with us this morning. Welcome to you. But when we speak of welcome, we know that often the world falls short in that. Often the values of the world are neither loving nor just. So may this worship hour be one in which we feel fed by a wisdom and a passion that tells us that life does not have to be that way, that there exists a larger love in every human heart, urging us on to what is better. Let this larger love move in our midst today. May each of us feel touched by it, changed by it in some way. Welcome to you if you are a newcomer to our community. Gay or straight, cisgender or transgender, whatever your race or ethnicity, you are welcome. Our West Shore regulars would love to greet you, and will do so if you indicate in the Facebook chat that you are new or relatively new. If you happen to have any questions and would love to chat with someone, West Shore's Member and Engagement Coordinator, Diane Alcorn, would love to chat with you. Diane's email address is being added to the Facebook chat as we speak. And now, some announcements from Megan.
Good morning. I would like to remind everyone that there are just 3 more days to sign up for our Summer Pen Pal program. If you would like to connect with a new West Shore friend, sign up using the link that was in your e-news. The Pen Pal program will begin on June 20th and run for 4 weeks. If you have any questions, please contact me. I'd like to send a special thanks to Margaret Gardner and Irene Morley for the beautiful work they did with the yarn storming at the front of our church. If you haven't yet had an opportunity to see it, I hope you will stop by. The front of our church has been decorated with crocheted and knitted pieces representing pride that were knitted and crocheted by members of our church community. I hope you'll come and see it. It will be up through the end of June. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. You know, our community is fabulous, and the yarn storming only makes it more so. So come on out, check it out. It's really wonderful. I'd like to add a last announcement here. Next Sunday, we are planning on doing something we have not done in over a year, and that is to worship face to face. The plan is for next Sunday's service to be held outdoors on the front lawn, weather permitting. Very appropriately, it will be our annual flower celebration, which beautifully embodies some of our most important religious values, including affirming the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It's also about freedom, which resonates with Juneteenth, or Emancipation Day, the holiday celebrating the emancipation of those who had been enslaved in the United States, observed on June 19th. So if the weather permits, join us for this outdoor service. Bring a flower now to exchange with another in a socially distanced, safe way. Don't forget to bring your own seating. Some seating will be provided for folks who are disabled. Since this is an outdoor event, masks are not required, but they are recommended for those who have not yet been vaccinated or for other reasons folks feel the need to wear a mask. Thanks to our parish nurses for guidance on safe social distancing practices for this event. In case of rain, we will give notice of cancellation by 8 a.m. on the morning of the event. We look forward to worshiping together again on June, face-to-face I should say, on June 20th. Once again, welcome to this new day.
Every week, we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It is a beautiful reminder that no matter how many jarring events might occur over the course of the week, the gathered community that is West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church is a source of stability that we can depend on. Please say with me our words, originally inspired by Maya Angelou. This is our chalice. In many separate rooms, we light one flame. Flame of passion, flame of compassion, flame of humor, flame of style. We do not accept merely surviving. Let our mission be to thrive. Together in spirit, we are one. Let us witness to the unity of our spirit by saying together our unison affirmation words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio suele. Esta es nuestro magnífico convenio. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
So may it be. And thank you, Melinda. And now, we turn to our time of greeting. And what we do in our time of greeting is we spotlight the joys and concerns of our lives, personal ones, but also ones that are public. Out of Texas comes this public concern, which has to do with how a bakery called Confections posted a Facebook photo advertising their cookies celebrating Pride Month, which were heart-shaped and rainbow-iced and fabulous, and all about more love and less hate. The following day, the bakery saw a reaction that was the opposite of what they had hoped. A lot of hate. A huge order, for example, for 5 dozen cookies that had already been completed was canceled. An order like that was big to them. The bakery let Facebook know what happened, and the response was huge in a good way. 2,500 more followers emerged. Supportive comments from across the world came, and a line around the block of people wanting to purchase one of those 5 dozen cookies. Love does win, despite the hate. We are lifting up this public concern and joy this morning. And now, for some more personal issues to lift up, I'd like to share news that one of our West Shore guest speakers from this past year, Shirley Nelson, was ordained yesterday and shall now be known henceforth as the Reverend Shirley Nelson. You'll get a chance to hear the Reverend Nelson this summer as part of our wonderful special Summer Speaker Series. You'll hear her on July 18th and then again on August 8th. Reverend Nelson, congratulations to you. We also offer our deep sympathy to Andy Pongrantz, West Shore's featured percussionist, on the recent death of his father, Lois Pongrantz, aged 97, of Elyria. A funeral service was held on June 7th, and a celebration of life will occur on July 10th. Let us each now say the names of people whom we are holding in our personal thoughts and prayers this morning. People in our West Shore community, people beyond the walls of this community, wherever you may happen to be. Say into the space of your name or your room these names out loud, as if the act of just saying the name were a prayer, which it is. You may even type the name into your Facebook chat if you like. I will pause for a moment as we do this. This has been our greeting time when we are called out of the 24/7 ordinary world, and we are called into something special. We're called in to beloved community, but not just any beloved community. This is Unitarian Universalist beloved community, and it's got a history. And an important moment in that history is the coming together of the 2 separate streams of Unitarianism and Universalism in 1961 to meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea.
As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free, free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thought and lifeless greed, free from a social code that fails to serve the cause of human need. A freedom that reveres the past but trusts the dawning future more, and bids the soul in search of truth adventure boldly and explore. Prophetic church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim
Today we recognize the members of our youth group and mark a milestone in their lives. In Unitarian Universalist tradition, bridging is what we call the transitional line of the late teen years, when youth moves slowly, but not necessarily in a straight line, out of the youth community and more fully into the community of all ages.
West Shore has 9 amazing youth who are graduating from high school this year. When we dedicate our children into our community and dedicate ourselves to them, we give them each a long-stemmed rose with the thorns removed. The buds are symbols of the beauty of each individual and unfolding life. We offer roses with thornless stems as a symbol of our desire to protect the children of our church family from all that could be hurtful. Now it is time for our youth to accept another rose. This rose is open with vibrant colors. It represents the unfolding of their lives and the bright possibilities ahead. But this rose has thorns. Life isn't always easy, and you will encounter thorns along your path.
It is said that the greatest gifts a congregation can give its children are roots and wings. We have done our best to root you here at West Shore, to provide a place and community where you belong. I hope these roots will draw you back. Whenever you need us, we will be here with open arms. Now is the time for you to unfurl your wings and fly towards young adulthood. Your path may be straight or curved, decisive or hesitant. Whatever it looks like, it's yours to own.
Our first graduate is Ben Luby. Ben is graduating from Avon High School, where he was active in marching band, robotics, wind ensemble, and the National Honor Society. His favorite church activities were Homeless on Hilliard, the Rocky Horror Picture Show outing and church overnight with the Sunday night youth group, the Day of the Dead celebrations, and learning to play mahjong. After graduation, Ben plans to attend the University of Akron and major in electrical engineering with a minor in computer science.
Our second graduate is Arena Wade. She is graduating from Bay High School this year. Next year, she plans to attend Baldwin Wallace University and major in early childhood education. Arena has attended West Shore for 12 years. Her best memories are when the youth would do Homeless on Hilliard and sleep outside while collecting money, and the urban plunge. From her time at West Shore, she says she will take with her the belief that you can't judge a person's religion because that's not what being a Unitarian Universalist is about. We must accept others just the way they are, and we, most of all, must keep our UU values close to us, but grow as we age.
Our next 2 graduates chose to submit videos. Here are Abby Rosu and Seth Warner.
Hello, my name is Abby Rosu, and I'm graduating from Lake Ridge Academy. Next year, I will be attending Kent State University for Visual Communication Design and Theater Studies. I've been at West Shore my entire life. Some of my favorite memories include junior choir, world religions class, and 8th grade coming of age. From my time at West Shore, I will take with me inclusivity, open-mindedness, and a willingness to always be searching for truth. I'm so glad to have grown up in this wonderful community, and I'm grateful to everyone who is a part of my journey. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Seth Warner. I'm graduating from St. Edward High School this year, and I am going to Kalamazoo College to study film, English, and business. My parents have been with West Shore since before I was born, so I've technically been a member my entire life. Some of my best memories from West Shore, probably number 1 has to be Homeless on Hilliard. I went twice, and it was such a cool experience. I really got to know my fellow youth group members a lot better. I got to walk in the shoes of those who are less fortunate than I am, which I think was a very important experience. And I was in junior choir for almost my entire childhood. I think I started when I was around 5, and I finally stopped being a member when I was around 12 or 13. So those are always memories that'll be really important to me. One message that I've really gotten from West Shore is that even when it might not seem like it, there are always people that love and support you, and they'll always support you on whatever path you decide to take in life. And I think that's something really important that a lot of people need to hear, and that a lot of people don't really know. And it's true for all people, and that's just something really important that this whole community has given me. Thank you.
Also graduating from high school this year are Marina Binfield, Elijah Deutschman-Ruiz, Lauren Torres, Lev Vizdos, and Kaylin Williams. Congratulations to all of our grads.
Thank you so much for that wonderful celebration, and congratulations to our graduates. And let's bring our bridging service to a close with the first verse of We'll Build a Land, because we are sending out our new graduates into this world, and this is our hope for them, to be a part of the work and the joy of building our community and our world. So let's jump in there with the first verse of that hymn.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all morning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where people together, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
And so may it be. Amen. And now we turn to our offering. Please consider texting a special gift to West Shore. Instructions for how to do this can be found on our website and also the screen. Thank you for considering a gift this morning. It's only because of your generosity that we can have a spiritual community to begin with, a community that helps raise our children and supports their growth into young adulthood and beyond, and we send them out into the world to help build a land. Your gifts make this possible, and so much more. This includes the beautiful music that we're now going to hear. This is Journey by Cleveland-born New Age pianist Jim Brickman.
you, David. That was beautiful. Mary Oliver, The Journey. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, and though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save.
All year long, we have been on a voyage of aliveness in search of truths from the various world's religions. Today, our voyage culminates with Unitarian Universalism, and I say culminates intentionally because one of the distinctive features of our faith is our core conviction that no one book or tradition is in possession of the entire truth. Truth can be found in multiple sources, and it is our joy and our duty to seek it out wherever it may be found. It is Unitarian Universalism, then, that gives us our reason and our rationale for looking towards Hinduism and Buddhism, Confucianism and Taoism, Islam and Judaism, Christianity and Yoruba religion. Spending an entire year doing this was an act of faithfulness. It was an expression of our distinctive spiritual way. And now we finish by taking a closer look at ourselves, our history, our journey. Now, I could begin 500 years ago, when what the king believed was what each of his subjects was required to believe, on pain of persecution and death. Equally, 500 years ago, what the preacher preached was what each of his hearers was required to believe, on pain of being declared a sinner and cast out, or worse. But then a great spirit named Queen Isabella asked an outrageous question. She asked this question. This queen lived in Eastern Europe in a region of today's Romania known as Transylvania. And her outrageous question was, what would happen if the government granted protection, not persecution, for Catholics and Lutherans and Calvinists and Jews and Muslims and Unitarians alike? Her question included more. What if? What would happen if preachers no longer saw congregants as empty bank accounts to fill with all the coins of their professional wisdom, but rather as fellow journeyers of life? And the preacher proclaims their wisdom as best as he or she or they knows, and congregants are informed and provoked and maybe even inspired, but in no way should there be an expectation of no disagreement. In no way should they be afraid of disagreeing. In other words, what if religion could be something very much different than it is today, something allowing greater freedom and the right of individual conscience? This is the great question that Queen Isabella asked herself 500 years ago. What if? Soon afterwards, Queen Isabella died, but her son, who became the king, King John Sigismund, kept her dream of religious freedom alive and made it real, and it was called the Edict of Torda. That is how we got our main start as a faith. And if anybody should ask you how old our liberal religious tradition really is, it is 450 plus years old. The Edict of Torda became law in 1568. So our liberal religious tradition is really 453 years old exactly. That is the historical start for our communities of faith. And often it is this chapter that gets focused on, or chapters that directly followed, especially chapters in the 1800s, featuring such great names as William Ellery Channing, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Margaret Fuller, and Olympia Brown. But for our purposes today, I want to fast forward to the latest chapter in our history, which often goes unexplored. This latest chapter began in 1961. In 1961, we saw the union of two traditions of liberal religion, Unitarianism and Universalism. For more than 100 years, these two traditions had noticed deep resonances and echoes in each other, but it was only in 1961 that the two became one, and that one, that new one, was greater than the sum of the parts, a completely new creation. This is the chapter in our long history I want to talk about today, leading up to the present moment. At General Assembly in 1961, once the final vote had been taken to consolidate 61 short years ago, or 60 short years ago, the 1,000+ delegates representing congregations across the land, meeting in Boston, held a worship service. And it began with the song we just sang a moment ago, as tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred fellowships unite to build a church that shall be free. The 1,000+ delegates sang this song about freedom, and then they sang it again and again and again as hundreds of Unitarian ministers and hundreds of Universalist ministers who were now and forevermore Unitarian Universalist ministers processed into that room, and there was not a dry eye in that space. To paraphrase Mary Oliver's poem, The Journey, they finally knew what they had to do, and they did it. They began, and there was no going back. Though it set the whole house trembling, though people felt the old tug at their ankle, tug of fear, Mary Oliver's poem says it all so well. As an official denominational report puts it, some Universalists feared that the Unitarian identity would be swallowed up by the much larger body. Some Unitarians feared that the word Unitarian would lose its cutting edge, where when it was joined with that word Universalist, they felt that the two big words joined together would be too much of a good thing. Yet again, some Christian theists in both denominations feared that the coming together of Universalist and Unitarian humanist groups would threaten the liberal Christianity cherished by some of the most historic churches in both denominations. Some humanists in both denominations felt that the coming together of the Universalist and Unitarian Christian groups would militate against the advance of humanism in the new association. That's what that official denominational report said. All these fears and more tugging at the ankles. And these fears are still alive in the hearts of some. Each of them crying out the words of Mary Oliver's poem, "Mend my life." In other words, Give me an upfront guarantee that the actions you are about to take will be perfect and there will be no mistakes before you go any further. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. Unitarian Universalism kept on moving forward, spurred on by a spirit that embraced a new world in which all the various great world religions, once hermetically sealed off from each other, were now, through transportation technologies and information technologies, mixing and mingling freely. A spirit made us restless to use our freedom to create a religion for one world. Despite the fears, we kept on. We knew what we had to do because that spirit also made us ache for the physical, social, and spiritual liberation of all, and also for the planet's liberation. The ancient travesty of the haves and the have-nots, the insiders and the outsiders, the privileged and the oppressed, that was vivid for us. And we were not satisfied with promises of justice in some hereafter. We knew freedom is a thing to be used right now to create love and justice right now in this world. A great spirit impelled us forward to use our freedom well. And in the beginning, in the early 1960s, everything seemed golden. In 1960, President John F. Kennedy said that the torch has been passed on to a new generation. Here on God's green earth, work must truly be our own. And we thrilled hearing that. Our first association president, the Reverend Dana Greeley, he spent money to the tune of that big vision, expanding programs and expanding staff so that we could rise to the challenge. We, as a movement, knew transcendental meditation before the Beatles introduced it to the world. We rallied to the aid of the civil rights movement, and we were there at the front line in that march to Selma. It was a golden moment. But it would not last. Adversity came all too soon for us and, in truth, for all other liberal religious groups. It was the 60s, and the times they are a-changin'. Kennedy was assassinated. Dr. King was assassinated. The Vietnam conflict polarized all of America, and therefore, of course, our congregations were polarized. We were also polarized by our differences on how to work for racial justice in the face of the Black Power movement. The early 1960s were golden. The latter 1960s were lead. And we were just a baby religion. We were vulnerable. We were troubled by the turmoil in our world, which was felt with all rawness at home in our congregations. Money tells the story. Money always tells the story. When our second association president, the Reverend Robert West, assumed office in 1969, he found a denominational headquarters, he found a UUA that was in dire financial crisis. Our congregations had not grown, and people's giving had not grown, despite all of Dana Greeley's expensive program and staff expansions. He had overpromised and underdelivered. So to save our bacon, to do that, Robert West's first move was to cut the UUA budget and staff by 40%. He did what he had to do. But it did not make him popular. And there are no warm fuzzies to be found in this part of our religious freedom story. It's just as Mary Oliver says. the wind prying with its stiff fingers at the very foundations. It was a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. Adding to the wildness in the larger world was the wildness in our Unitarian Universalist hearts. In the golden years, we had sky-high expectations for our religion of one world transformed. After the vote that married Unitarianism to Universalism, and the two became one, that was more than the sum of the parts, something unique and different in the ecology of the world's religions. One of the speakers, the Reverend Donald Harrington, said this in a sermon. And again, this is 1961. He said, "Looking forward from this place, what do I see? I see the need to brace ourselves to absorb the shock of the incredible growth which will accompany our newly won relevance. Let there be no mistake in our minds about that." That's what he said. And echoing this was UUA President Dana Greeley in an interview with Time magazine, saying, "We have thought of ourselves as a tiny denomination, but with adequate vision and will, in a quarter of a century, we could become a denomination of at least 1 million members." But instant success did not happen. One of our prophets, Henry David Thoreau, once said, "If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be now. Put the foundations under them." But we somehow seem to have forgotten that the work of building foundations is slow and meticulous and hard, and there's a lot of zigzagging involved, and things don't work out. That's what is a part of building foundations, but we seem to have forgotten that. We didn't get the instant success that we felt entitled to. And so the wildness in our Unitarian Universalist hearts made its impact felt primarily through unkindness to each other, meanness to each other, and also anti-institutionalism. There was rampant anti-institutionalism, and ministers in particular, actually saying that the best thing to do would be to blow up Boston headquarters. As the Reverend Eugene Pickett, minister emeritus of the congregation I served in Atlanta and once president of our Unitarian Universalist Association, said, he once observed this, he said, "We are a contentious group of people, often harder on ourselves than on our fundamentalist critics. So easy to be cynical and mistrustful. We became very good at forming circular firing squads. And this would not be the first time or the last." A spirit was moving us, a positive spirit was moving us, absolutely, to be a religion for one world that worked for the transformation of person and planet. That is what religion is for, to create people who feel deep in their bones that they belong to something larger than themselves, to create people who feel called to spread revolutionary love and holy beauty. But we found ourselves getting in our own way, missing the boat. It was a wild night, and the road was full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own. In other words, In other words, how else can a people learn what they are really made of except through adversity, except by passing through the fire? Despite all the adversity from beyond us as well as from within us, Unitarian Universalism just kept on keeping on. And through it all, we came to learn better how we might serve the world. We came to learn better who we are and who we may yet be. For example, 50 years ago, back in the early 1970s, even though our denomination was in the midst of all sorts of dire crises, we had the prophetic opportunity to publish the Pentagon Papers. Now, as you may recall, the Pentagon Papers, all 7,000 pages of them, proved, among other things, that the Johnson administration had systematically lied to the American people and to Congress about what was really happening in the Vietnam War. In June of 1971, the New York Times leaked a tiny portion of this huge story, but was immediately muzzled by the Nixon administration and a court injunction. The U.S. Supreme Court would soon rule that this story could be told to the world, but no publisher, major or minor, would touch that story because they knew that it would draw FBI harassment and it would also draw expensive lawsuits. That is what would happen. They knew it. But you know what? We stepped into that. We stepped in and we stepped up. Beacon Press, the publishing arm of our Unitarian Universalist Association, said yes, it would publish the Pentagon Papers, and did so in October of 1971. And just as feared, FBI harassment did come, expensive litigation did come, but we faced it. We did. We endured. We survived. We were faithful to our religious mission of doing what we could given the times we lived in and the opportunities that came our way. We did our job. It was like a star burning through the sheets of clouds, the star of our true self. And the stars kept on burning through, one after one after one. In 1974, way ahead of other denominations, the UUA established an official office, dedicated to support ministries to gays, lesbians, bisexuals, transgender folks. In 1977, there was a formal denomination-wide pledge to challenge sexist language, assumption, and practices. In 1992, the UUA committed to becoming racially and culturally diverse. In 1989, we saw the production of the comprehensive sexuality curriculum, Our Whole Lives, which is just a standard bearer in our world today. In the mid-2000s, we championed same-sex marriage across the land. And in 2015, when the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage, Unitarian Universalist ministers like me streamed downtown to City Hall to officiate with tears streaming down our eyes at the wedding services of people whose love had always been real but had not been recognized as such. I will never forget that. 2015 was also the year when the UUA created the Accessibility and Inclusion Ministry to support congregations in becoming more inclusive for people who are differently abled, and how important that is. How important that is. In these ways, and in so many others, right up to the present day, we have been using our freedom to demonstrate how we believe that all people are children of a great love. All of us. How absolutely nothing can separate us from that love. Not sexual orientation or gender identity or race or class or ability or anything. Nothing should separate us from that love, including what you believe, whether you believe in God or 10 gods or none. One by one, stars of our true self burning through. In the 1980s, congregations began adopting the ritual of lighting the chalice as a way of starting worship. And they also adopted such annual rituals as the water communion and the flower celebration. We will celebrate that next week. 1985 saw the formal adoption of our 7 principles and our 6 sources, which ever since have been a source of common language and common vision. 1993 saw the publication of our current hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, and in 2005 we saw an addition to what we have come to call our gray hymnal with Singing the Journey. It is our teal hymnal, highlighting the spirituality of the LGBTQ community, highlighting earth-centered spirituality, other non-Western theologies, highlighting both male and female spirituality, highlighting the music of cultures traditionally underrepresented in our communities. It's given us so much. It's given us such beloved hymns in particular as Breaths, and also one of my favorites, Blue Boat Home. So beautiful. All of this and more, expressing the efforts of this baby religious tradition that we are to create language and rituals and traditions that will help this baby grow into its destiny of being a religion of one world. And it won't be an instant accomplishment. It will take time. It is taking time. And yes, because that is what's involved in building the foundations for a great dream and hope and aspiration. It is in this particular light that I would have us recognize a grassroots movement current among us, which means to add to our 7 principles an 8th principle. The proposed 8th principle is as follows: to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. Now, the movement to add this principle, again, is grassroots. And it came originally from a collaboration between UU leaders Paula Cole-Jones and Bruce Pollock Johnson, as I understand things. It comes from their observation, their mutual observation, that you can follow the 7 principles faithfully without ever really having to think about dealing with racism and other oppressions at a personal level. And systemic level. The 7 principles can be written on your heart, but you can still be oblivious to entrenched social arrangements around education, law enforcement, employment, housing, health care, and so on, that benefit whites but punish people of color. This is so because so many UUs are white. And it means that they are really never personally exposed to these systemic issues. Such problems really aren't on the radar. You know, our principles matter to us exactly because they remind us again and again about who we are, values that we do not dare forget. The proposed 8th principle is, in essence, an antidote to forgetting. My question to you, West Shore, is shall we take on a denominational leadership role by exploring this proposed 8th principle among ourselves, asking all the questions, raising all the considerations, and ultimately voting as a congregation to adopt this principle for ourselves? Shall we elevate this grassroots movement, which has been endorsed by Black Lives Matter, join other congregations who have already gone through the adoption process, and become a part of a building critical mass become a part of that, of a building critical mass that will ultimately lead the denomination as a whole to consider adopting the eighth principle formally. Shall we do this? I hope we will. Let's do this important thing. Let's be leaders in our movement now. Let's let our little light shine. Let's let our little light shine. Right now, our coordinating team, comprised of ministry associates and staff, including myself, is finalizing a policy on congregational statements that is democratic in spirit, sensitive towards different points of view, minimizes hurt feelings and misunderstandings, and guides us from beginning to end in doing such work as adopting the eighth principle. We didn't have this process in place years ago when we hung up our Black Lives Matter banner on our building, but we have this process now, and it's going to help us tremendously. It is about making history in the moment, history in the making, not just what is past and done, not just living on the laurels of the past, but what we can make and do right now, right now. We are building the foundations of who we are as a religious people, born in 1961, just 60 years old this year. And we are in process. We are in a powerful and transformative spiritual journey. Mary Oliver's poem describes it so well. But you know what? It's also been well captured by the song entitled Spirit of Life, whom some say has become nothing less than our Unitarian Universalist version of Amazing Grace. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots, hold me close. Wings, set me free. Spirit of life, come to me. Come to me. After finally realizing what we had to do, we did it. We began our collective journey in 1961. And despite the ways in which this decision set our house to trembling and fears tugging at our ankles, despite adversarial winds with their stiff fingers prying at the very foundations and the wildness of the night, despite all of this, we kept going. We kept on going, and we are coming into our own. Stars burning through clouds, and a new voice, which we are slowly recognizing as our own, a voice that is not solely Unitarian and neither solely Universalist, but Unitarian Universalist, original, compelling, a voice saying, Spirit of life, come to us, sing in our hearts. Help us to hold on to the big vision of one world transformed, even as we hold on to a capacity to be tolerant as we grow and try and fail and try again. Give us dogged determination to build the foundations, to keep on building, to stay away from a spirit of entitlement and to stay close to a spirit of enterprise and faithfulness. May we put ourselves into brave, challenging spaces that transformation demands. Brave, challenging space of adopting the eighth principle among us. And may the love that we meet in that space, God, may it break us open. May it inspire us to be more than we ever imagined possible. Spirit of life. Spirit that Queen Isabella and King John felt 450 years ago. Now you are here among us, moving within us. Strengthen us to be builders of hope and renewal, bringers of love and justice, bringers of beauty and healing. Give us wisdom to use our freedom well. For you have called us on this journey. And you are plugged in this morning because you want to go. And I am here this morning because I want to go. We go deeper and deeper into a world that is both achingly beautiful and tragically broken. It is both at the same time. So much to savor, so much to save. Deeper and deeper we go, and though it is the human condition that will always be adversarial, we'll find it within, we'll find it without. Let us say and never stop saying, Spirit of life, come unto us. It is our amazing grace voice, our heartbeat and our heart song and our destiny. And it will keep us company. It will fill us and strengthen us. And the only thing that is ours to do, the only thing, is to magnify this voice in our very living, to amplify this voice, to multiply this voice, to spread it through our actions, share it through our songs and stories and words, so that more and more people are feeling this Spirit of life. They are feeling the Spirit moving in their own hearts. More and more people are saying with us, singing with us, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in our hands, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold us close, wings set us free. Spirit of life, come to us, come to us. So may it be. Amen. Now bring your chalice close to extinguish it, as I extinguish our chalice here. As we say our words, we extinguish our flames, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. So I want to remind you about coffee hour starting at 11:30 this morning, followed by the sermon chat at 12:30. I will see you on Zoom. And now our benediction words. Peace and blessings, says one of the wisest among us at West Shore. Peace and blessings to our Unitarian Universalism, 60 years old this year, peace and blessings. To this congregation that is an expression of our faith tradition here in Cleveland, peace and blessings. To our sibling congregations around the world, including the Amarillo Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, which has joined us today, shout out to them, peace and blessings. May peace and blessings flow among us and through us to a world that needs us. Blue boat home that we are to one another as we ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with our ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. Ashe, so may it be. Amen.